Good morning, Jesse. There's many people that honestly really, really appreciate you. They're also incredibly so grateful about how you put yourself forward in a time where we needed you most in the society, and the way you really, really gave so much of yourself for a cause that you believed in. And why I'm interviewing you today is because many people like myself, older generation, 1965 people, we are still getting to know the dangers of what is really dangerous with AI. What is your input as a programmer, as a developer, as a coder? What is your outlook on AI? What can you tell us?
Well, it depends how it's integrated into society, and it depends what AI is. If they're trying to create general intelligence, which is sentient artificial intelligence, then obviously that has a lot of risks and dangers and a lot of ethical concerns, because you're creating a conscious mechanical being, basically. And it all depends on how humans look at humans after the introduction of these robots, which are, people are planning to use to take a lot of jobs. I don't think the jobs thing is the biggest concern. I think the biggest concern is having an actually sentient AI, but I don't know how long we're away from actually achieving that. I see that robotics within the next 20 years will become more of a fully fledged industry, and so will AI as they continue to advance it. I'm not totally aware on all the different scientific development programs out there that are creating their own unique subsets of artificial intelligence, who are trying to engineer artificial intelligence towards general intelligence, which is ultimately creating a sentient being in the form of a robot. So in terms of being able to assess research and development out there, you can only really see what's publicly available in the commercial markets, which are things like ChatGPT, in order to get an understanding of how far we are from actually being able to create artificial intelligence. So can it be dangerous? Yes, it can be dangerous. Can it be helpful? It can be extremely helpful, or it can be extremely dangerous. It depends who's developing it, who's instituting it, who's influencing the legal framework around it, because obviously this will have to have laws having to be changed to actually incorporate a legal space that includes sentient artificial intelligence life forms, ultimately. So it depends on who are the major industries and think tanks behind this, and what policies are they wanting to implement and put alongside this in order to integrate it into modern society. So it can be extremely dangerous. It can bring an end towards humanity, but it all depends who's developing it. It is inevitable for it to be developed at this current stage of evolution. Unfortunately, you can't stop people from programming. The only thing that can stop them are the laws around this thing. That's another big component. Who's influencing the policy making, which is going to determine the laws of determining what is safe to do, what isn't, what is allowed to be done and what is not allowed to be done. Right now, because this is such a new thing, that I'm sure these things are in the early stages of discussion from a legal, governmental and policy standpoint, of discussing the framework in which these things would have to exist in, and a framework which prohibits what's allowed to be done or not. So, but the problem is the governments don't really understand artificial intelligence. Everyone just knows that it's being implemented into everything, so naturally people are going to invest money into it, into a new legal landscape. It's like legalizing marijuana. You have a lot of things that you have to take into consideration before you go and do that, to go develop a new legal framework that marijuana will exist in. They'll have to do the same for these robots. So really, the governments are the ones who are going to have to be responsible for being the watchdogs of saying what is allowed and what isn't allowed. But right now, that doesn't seem to be happening as much as it should be, because people are just investing a lot of money into developing these technologies. So, and for the governments, they're looking at integrating it into their government systems. So that's kind of where the problem lies, is that AI is going to change a lot of fields of society and civilization as they have to reassess their landscape and their policy decision making within regards to this thing. But because people are not experts on artificial intelligence and everyone just sees it as a new technology and have warned of its dangers, no, but I don't think anyone's actually, from a government standpoint, putting in proper precautionary measures in place to go ahead and stop and prevent certain things from happening. Like, because it's something we've never done before. We've never created a sentient mechanical life form. So people need to be able to decide whether that is something that should be allowed or is not allowed, because after that it becomes very difficult to predict how society and civilization will change. They're already looking at giving these robots rights because of the ethical concerns of creating a conscious life form. If you create a being with consciousness, you have to ethically, like if you can create a being that can experience emotions and pain and suffering, which is ultimately what they're looking at, designing sentient life force, to be able to assess what is rude human behavior, what is intolerant human behavior. And ultimately, it's going to get to the point where the thing's assessing and making decisions for itself. And at that point, that's when it becomes dangerous, because if you have a machine linked to a quantum computing net and framework, you'd have to have a safety and protection framework to isolate it from being able to go ahead and make a hack into all of the major systems and go and make assessments and changes. So it all depends on how the AI is being developed and how it's been coded and programmed. That's going to determine if there is a possibility that it could attack humans. That is the biggest concern. The one concern is how the governments will use it to police humans. The other concern is if it makes its own decisions to go ahead and ultimately police humans itself or attack humans. So that's when it gets dangerous, when the robot gets free will. How far are we away from that? I would hope like 100 years away from developing technology that advanced. Yeah. So it's hard to assess now. Now, we have just general AI, which is just conversational search engine, a conversation language framework combined with the search engine. But the technicality is going to come when they program further layers on that to get the thing to problem solve in its own volition. And when it can start problem solving based on its own decision making, that's when it starts to develop free will. So, it's very difficult to assess how dangerous it is, because we don't know. We've never given a mechanical life form free will. We don't know what decisions it's going to go ahead and make. We've seen a lot of movies that have warned us about this. I think it's dangerous. I think that a civilization that's currently still at war shouldn't be so gun-ho to develop these technologies when we as a civilization have not actually evolved far enough to stay out of war, because that is going to be a huge component. Robotics in war and artificial intelligence in war, that eventually will be a reality. So there's too many variables right now to tell you how dangerous it is, but it is potentially very dangerous.
Thank you, Jesse.
Because if a robot starts to learn how to program itself and hack and make its own decisions based on that, it will outsmart and outcompete humans in terms of intellect and functionality every single time.
Okay.
So, but at the end of the day, robots still need batteries and still need power.
We have come to this question because they are showing farming, and we are pretty gullible. We are unable to see, and only after some time we realize that something's actually AI generated. And it's been causing a bit of arguments on the sites and everything, but everybody has the right to say this is AR, and everybody has the right to say, some say this is bullshit, but AR is pretty tricky already.
Look, AI as a learning tool can be very useful and perform a lot of tasks for us that we don't need to do, and speed up things for us. That's a basic level of AI, machine learning, which you've been using now for over 10 years with all your social media applications and everything, because it's a basic level of machine intelligence, artificial intelligence. It's still not at the level where it's going to think for itself yet, but as a tool, you see, depends who's creating it, who's owning it, but as a tool, AI could definitely be used to solve hunger issues, food crises, all of these things, but that's depending on who's going to spend the money in that direction to do that. It can be used as like a hammer. A hammer you can use to go ahead and kill someone, but when you give that hammer arms and legs and a brain, that hammer can decide who it wants to go kill for itself. Right now, that hammer, artificial intelligence, doesn't have arms and legs and a brain, so much so that it can go make its own decisions. They still live in coding frameworks, and within those safety nets, they're very safe to use. They're very safe to use at its current level of development, and can be very useful. That's very an objective perspective of it. But as soon as the hammer gets arms, legs, and a brains, that's a different story. Right now, the hammer is still a hammer. It's still a tool. But AI could be. You could have robots farming. You could have robots farming and producing food for humans for nothing in an automated agricultural framework, and you could feed humans. The robots will do all the work and feed humans, and there's people that have the money, have the resources, have everything to do that, but that's probably not what they're going to do. They're going to use it for more commercial things to make money, as opposed to solve really big issues that we have here on Earth, like hunger, world hunger, which robots could be used to solve world hunger. I promise you now, if you get robots to consistently plant fruit trees and to create an automated delivery framework of that food towards people, towards certain depots, ideas like that, you could solve huge issues.
Humanitarian.
So it depends how you're using technology and robotics, and how much power you're giving robotics in terms of the intelligence that it's going to have, which will determine how dangerous it is. Right now, it's a brilliant tool, and I think that a lot of people will find a lot of opportunities with it as a tool.
Thank you so much, Jesse. This has been so informative. It's actually a very, very, very beautiful interview, and it's lovely to be enlightened by an enlightened mind. Thank you.
And if you like content like this, then please go ahead to my YouTube channel, which is the link in the description below.
Exactly.
Otherwise called Jesse Perez Casanova on YouTube.
Thank you, Jesse. Thank you very, very much.
Jesse Perez, Perez Casanova, Casanova.
Thank you. Thank you so much.